All right, so I came across a story from ProPublica, and man, it's kind of dark, and it's just showing you what this administration is really about when they say that they want to, deport criminal immigrants. During the campaign trail, they framed it as we're deporting the violent criminals, you know, you've heard it all. And we quickly found out that wasn't the case. You had the White House press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, come out and say to a reporter, they're like, what criminal records did these people have? Were they violent offenders, like you guys said? And they're like, anyone who enters this country illegally is a criminal. Fair enough. So all 11 million are on the table. And the scariest thing was when they said they were opening up 30,000 beds in Guantanamo Bay. Bro, if you don't know what, I'm going to call it Gitmo for short. If you don't know what that is, it's like a piece of land in Cuba we kind of just like stole. There's a lot of background to it. Anyways, it's an extrajudicial prison that in the past we use to house suspected terrorists. And at Gitmo, it's extrajudicial. That means our laws, our constitution, any rights that prisoners have, normal prisoners, prisoners of war, that is all gone at Gitmo. Remember when it used to be like a popular position on both sides to shut that down, and Obama was supposed to shut it down and he never did? Yeah, now we're using it to hold immigrants. So with that being said, that I want you to understand who they're deporting. It's everyone. You know that undocumented immigrant that has a family, has been here for 18 years. His only crime was coming here illegally. Has a full-time job, house, kids, gets deported. Just like that, life uplifted. And it's not violent criminals. If they ran on that to hide behind it, where when they deport fucking anyone they want, and then they hide behind what? You want to keep these violent criminals running around our streets? No. So it's scary that we're sending people who their only crime was coming here illegally to Gitmo. And they said that it's only going to be the worst of the worst. That's not true. That's what they said were the ones that they would deport in the first place. And here we are. It's crazy. And you can see right in the subheader here, government officials have refused to release the names of detainees or provide details about the crimes that landed them in detention. I wonder why. I wonder why. If these were violent criminals with violent backgrounds, wouldn't you really want to let people know that? It's like, hey, these people we're sending to this extrajudicial prison, they're really bad. Look, here's the record. Here's the record. You got a problem with that? That'd be a valid argument. No, they can't, because they're not sending the worst of the worst. 30,000 beds. If you think we have 30,000 fucking undocumented murders running around, you need to go do some research. That's all I'm saying. The military planes departed from Texas in quick succession, 8 flights in many days. Each one carried more than a dozen immigrants that the U.S. alleged are the worst of the worst kind of criminals, including members of a violent Venezuelan street gang. Since February 4th, the Trump administration has flown about 100 immigrant detainees to the U.S. naval base in Guantanamo Bay. So it's already happening. A facility better known for having held those suspected of plotting 9/11 terrorist attacks. Officials have widely touted the flights as a demonstration of President Donald Trump's commitment to one of the central promises of his campaign, and they distributed photos of some of the immigrants at takeoff and landing, but they have not released the names of those they're holding or provide details about their alleged crimes. In recent days, however, information about the flights and the people on them has emerged that call the government's narrative into question. ProPublica and the Texas Tribune have identified nearly a dozen Venezuelan immigrants who have been transferred to Guantanamo. The New York Times published a larger list with some, but not all, of the names. For 3 of the Guantanamo detainees who had been held at an immigration detention center in El Paso, Texas, ProPublica and the Tribune obtained records about their criminal histories and spoke to their families. The three men are all Venezuelan. Each had been detained by immigration authorities soon after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border and was being held in custody, awaiting deportation. In some cases, they had been languishing for months because Venezuela, until recently, was largely not accepting deportees. According to U.S. federal court records, 2 of them had no crimes on their records except for illegal entry. The third had picked up an additional charge while already in detention for kicking an officer while being restrained during a riot. Yeah, you shouldn't do that, but the point here is he was detained and was ready to go to fucking Gitmo before he did this. Relatives of the 3 men said in interviews on Tuesday that they had been left entirely in the dark about their loved ones. They all said that their relatives were not criminals, and 2 provided records from Venezuelan Interior Ministry and other documents to support their statements. They said the U.S. government has given them neither information about the detainees' whereabouts nor the ability to speak with them. So yeah, they even have the fucking records and proof. These people aren't violent criminals. They just came here illegally, fleeing, a torn nation in hopes of a better life, the American dream that we used to embrace so much. So attorneys say they have also been denied access. The American Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit on Wednesday, arguing that the U.S. Constitution gives the detainees rights to legal representation that shouldn't be stripped away just because they have been moved to Guantanamo. Never before have people been taken from the U.S. soil and sent to Guantanamo and denied access to lawyers in the outside world, said Lee Gallant, the lead attorney in the ACLU case. It is difficult to think of anything so flagrantly at odds with the fundamental principles in which our country was built. Literally, this country is a country of immigrants. We used to embrace immigrants coming in. We should still, but it's to the point where both parties have abandoned immigrants. Fucking Joe Biden and Obama, they fucking deported more than Trump. Joe Biden and Democrats endorsed the super hawkish right-wing border bill. Of course, it got killed by Republicans because Trump told them to kill it because it's a better issue for him to run on. So, it's crazy. Jessica Palma sobbed as she spoke about her brother, Jose Daniel Samanakis, a 30-year-old construction worker, and how it felt to think of him being treated like a terrorist when all he'd done was attempted to come to the United States in pursuit of a decent job. Angela Sakura was distraught about not being able to speak to her son, Yoiker Sakura, who'd work as a barber in Venezuela. Michael Duran expressed the same dismay about his son, Mayfried Duran, who also worked as a barber. To me, it's the desperation, the frustration. I know nothing of him, he said in a phone interview in Spanish from his home in Venezuela. It's a terrible anguish. I don't sleep. In response to questions about Guantanamo detainees, officials at the Department of Homeland Security insisted, without pointing to any evidence, that some, but not all, of the immigrants they have transferred to Guantanamo are violent gang members and others are high-threat criminals. All these individuals committed a crime by entering the United States illegally. There it is. There it is. From another agency official. There it is. All 11 million of them. And we've been over this, okay? They make up 5% of our workforce. About 8 or 9 million of the 11 million here are in our workforce. They commit significantly less crimes, both petty, violent, across the entire spectrum than natural-born citizens. They pay almost like $100 billion in taxes every year, but they can't get any of the benefits because they don't have a social security number. And we just used to be open to these people. Like, we used to invite them here. And as I always stress, these people aren't the reason why you make no money. These people aren't the reason why grocery prices are so high. They're not the reason why you don't have free healthcare. Like, the Trump administration wants to always shift, this is Republicans, they always want to shift blame to someone else so that they can continue to cause the real damage, them and their billionaire friends, while we blame people that are all a part of the same social class. These people are on our side. They're not your enemy. The billionaires are your enemy. The giant corporations paying us garbage wages and artificially increasing prices, they are your enemy, not these fucking people. Like I always said, say there's a big ice arrest near you and that fucking Mexican down the street that you didn't know much about just got deported. All you knew about him is that he had a wife, kids, worked, and he got deported. Why did he get deported? Because he came here illegally 10 years ago. All right. So how did your life improve? I'll wait. Some detainees are being held in Guantanamo's maximum security prison, while others are in the migrant operations center that in the past has been used to house those intercepted at sea. DHS spokesman Tricia McLaughlin responded to the ACLU lawsuit and said in an email that there was a phone system that detainees could use to reach attorneys. Writing in all caps for emphasis, she added, "If the American Civil Liberties Union cares more about highly dangerous criminal aliens, including murderers and vicious gang members, then they do not care about American citizens. They should change their name." Do you see how they deflect here? Do you see how they deflect here? They're just gaslighting, and people eat this shit up. Wake the fuck up. In the past, U.S. government has withheld information about the cases that it says involve a threat to national security. In some cases, the authorities say information they're using to make custody determinations is confidential. The government said that some of the people sent to Guantanamo are tied to the Tren de Aragua criminal organization, which Trump designated a terrorist group when he took office. Also, that's just it's not like, oh yeah, fucking terrorists. It's now we can drone strike them and officially declare war on them and use military force against them under the War on Terrorism Act or whatever that gives us that kind of cover. Crazy. Among the things law enforcement has used to identify members of the group have been certain tattoos, including stars, roses, and crowns, though there's disagreement on whether the practice is reliable. Probably fucking not, man. What the fuck? Lawyers have expressed concern that the government sometimes uses national security concerns as a pretext to avoid scrutiny. Yeah, no kidding. The Guantanamo detention may be among the highest profile moves the Trump administration has made as a part of its mass deportation campaign, but federal agents have always fanned out across the country over the last several weeks to conduct raids in neighborhoods and workplaces. Data obtained by ProPublica and the Tribune shows that from January 20th through the first days of February, there have been at least 14,000 immigration arrests. Around 44% of them were people with criminal convictions, and of those, close to half were convicted of misdemeanors. Bruh. I have a misdemeanor. Like, what the fuck? Still, Trump's borders are Tom Homo, has said that he's not satisfied with the pace of enforcement. Government data obtained by the news organization shows that the Trump administration has averaged about 500 deportations per day, well short of the more than 2,100 per day during the 2024 fiscal year under former President Joe Biden. However, the difference could be attributed to lower numbers of border crossings, which have been dropping since last year, since before you even took office. Trump directed the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security almost lisped out there for a second, last month to prepare 30,000 beds at Guantanamo Bay, and later said the site was for criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Relatives of those currently detained in Guantanamo said the immigrants all had tattoos, and one of them, Simonakis, was from Aragua, the state when I can't with these names, man. It twists my tongue. The detainees' relative dispute that their loved ones have anything to do with the group. That doesn't make sense. He's a family man, Palma said in Spanish of her brother. Having tattoos is not a sin. Palma, who is currently living in Ecuador, said her brother left Venezuela years ago, first living for a time in Ecuador and then in Costa Rica. He decided to try his luck in the United States last year, crossing with a group that included his wife and cousin, who were soon released into the U.S. to pursue asylum claims. They both said in interviews, all three women said Simonakis was proud of his work on construction sites and shared TikTok videos he made showing the progress of some of his projects set to music. Simonakis also called his cousin on February saying he was being taken to Guantanamo. It is truly distressing, his sister added. I have to have faith because if I break down, I can't help him. Duran's father only learned of his son's potential whereabouts after recognizing his face in a TikTok video with some of the images released by the U.S. government of men in gray sweats and shackles being led into military planes in El Paso. That's crazy. Duran had left Venezuela hoping to one day open his own barbershop in Chicago where he had relatives. He described his son, who has a toddler, as a jokester and a dedicated worker. Duran was detained in July 2023 on his third attempt at crossing the border, his father said. He remained in detention following a conviction for assaulting a federal officer during a riot. Okay, that's the guy who assaulted someone after he was already arrested. Okay. He called his father on February 6th, asking him to gather documentation that could prove he had no criminal record in Venezuela because officials were trying to tie him to Tren de Aragua. Fuck me, man. Stop using... I don't care about the full gang name, all right? That is the last his father heard of him. Angela Socria was used to talking to her son every day on the phone while he was detained in El Paso, but then she abruptly stopped hearing from him. On Sunday, she got a call from a detainee inside the El Paso center telling her that her son, Yoiker, has been transferred, but she wasn't able to speak to him. When she looked him up online, it still showed him as being at the border. She'd last heard from him a day earlier. Estoy cansado, I'm exhausted. She said he told her in Spanish, it's unfair that I'm still detained. He'd been inside the detention center in El Paso since September after turning himself into the border patrol in Presidio, nearly 4 hours south of El Paso. Yoiker Sequeira, who was first identified by the online publication Migrant Insider, is among the 3 Venezuelans named in the lawsuit filed by the ACLU. The 25-year-old had wanted to be a barber ever since he was a boy, his mother said, just like his uncle. That's how he made a living wherever he went. In Venezuela, Ecuador, Colombia, he continued to cut hair along the migrant route as he was trying last year to make his way to his family in California and inside the detention center. Angela Sequeira said her son had planned on crossing the border and trying to seek asylum in the United States. Now they want to tie him to criminal gangs. Everything that's happening is so unfair. And I know most people are going to look at that and be like, you shouldn't try to come here, bro. Tough fucking luck. Man, have some humanity. Like, and you can't even say, well, come here legally. No, they're making the legal process harder. They don't want anyone to come here. And they've got a good percentage of the American people to believe that. And that's sad because that was not the case years ago. And like, we're in 2025 and we are regressing so far. It's crazy. But, yeah, like I said, these people aren't your enemy. These people aren't the reasons for your problems. They commit less crime than natural born citizens. They contribute tremendously to our economy. There's even studies showing where places that undocumented immigrants move to actually have less crime and crime rate goes down. So, yeah, if you're a tough anti-immigration guy, give me a solid argument in the comments and we'll go from there. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.